Hello, my name's Brett Hargreaves and I'd like to welcome you to this video training course for the exam AZ305, Designing Microsoft Azure Infrastructure Solutions. And this is one of the prerequisites for attaining the Microsoft Certified Azure Solutions Architect Expert qualification. So I've been an IT professional for over 30 years, with a varied career using the Microsoft technology stack. During that time, I've been privileged to work with some of the world's biggest companies, helping them design and build cutting-edge solutions. Now, I've actually worked with Microsoft Azure since the very beginning. Back then, Azure only offered a few components, virtual machines, Azure SQL, and storage. And I have grown with the platform over those years, and as more advanced features and technologies have been added. From building native applications to architecting enterprise systems spanning multiple countries, I've seen firsthand what's possible with this incredible tool. And during my time, I've used my Azure expertise to create a number of training courses, and I've even authored a couple of books. The AZ305 exam is one of the requirements for the Azure Solutions Architect Expert certification. And an Azure Solution Architect is someone who has to be an expert in designing cloud and hybrid solutions that run on Microsoft Azure. So as an architect, we need to be able to work with stakeholders and translate their business requirements into designs that run on Azure. We also need to understand networking, operations, identity, security, business continuity, data platforms, and governance. And finally, as an architect, we need to understand which of the many technologies there are to use, when, and sometimes how they integrate with each other. So this course covers the AZ305 objectives. I have of course passed the exam myself, so I know the sort of questions that will get asked, and this has helped me build out this course. We'll start with Module 1, Designing Identity, Governance and Monitoring Solutions. In this module, we'll look at the core foundations of the Azure platform from a point of view of management and security. So in Lesson 1, we'll look at the different options we have for logging and monitoring across many different aspects. Then we'll go into authentication and authorization, as this covers how we can secure our own access as well as that of applications speaking to each other. In Lesson 3, we'll examine our options for ensuring compliance and governance using things such as Azure policies, tagging, and blueprints. And then in Lesson 4, we'll look at the more advanced security options available to us, such as multi-factor authentication, conditional accesses, and access reviews. Next, we'll move on to Module 2, Designing Data Storage Solutions, and this is where we'll look at how to architect resilience into data components, including using things like Azure Storage, Azure SQL, and CosmoDB. Then in Lesson 6, we'll continue the theme by looking at data integration. We'll examine the tooling for analysing data, and we'll cover subjects such as Data Factory, Azure Databricks, and Azure Synapse. Module 3, Designing Business Continuity Solutions, is actually quite a short module, and we're just going to look at our options for backup and recovery. And so on that, we'll dive into VM backups, site recovery services, and SQL backups. Module 4 is all about how we can use Azure's many components to build end-to-end solutions. So we'll start with the basic compute options, covering services such as virtual machines, scale sets, and Azure Batch. Lesson 9 will look at another very popular paradigm for application architecture, using containerization and Azure Kubernetes services. In Lesson 10, we then move on to the many different platform as a service options, including Azure API Manager, message queuing, event grids, and Service Bus, before reviewing them all together and thinking about which of those different services are best for which scenarios. In Lesson 11, we'll look at the options we have for migrating our existing on-premise systems into Azure, including how we migrate virtual machines and databases. And then we'll finish off with Lesson 12, Networking. I purposefully left this until the last, as networking is quite a unique area and there's quite a big focus on it from Microsoft. And because of that, it has its own concepts and own need to understand certain things. At the end of most lessons, we'll also finish off with an example exam scenario before walking through one possible solution that might be appropriate. The AZ305 certification is about how we architect solutions in Azure, so as well as going through the theory of each aspect, we'll also work through some real-life examples. Finally, I'd just like to thank you for choosing my live lessons course over other resources available to you. So if you're ready to begin your journey to the AZ305 certification, let's get started.